for Juventus for a long time. When he was transferred from Parma to Juventus, he was transferred for a world fee at the time of $32.5 million and 123 caps for Italy. And a World Cup later, you can see why he's one of the best to ever play. Number 3, Peter Schmeichel. One of the best things about him was his attitude. I'm sorry, I'm going to swear right now, but he was just a badass. He just really did not care what people thought about him. He played 292 times between 91 and 99 for Manchester United. He played for Denmark during his international years. In '98, when they got to the quarterfinals against Brazil, that was probably one of the best matchups you'll ever see. Against Brazil, a really good Brazilian team. Schmeichel did everything he could, but it wasn't enough. And he played for Denmark for 129 games in his career. And, of course, causing one of the biggest shocks in international football history when they won the European Championship in 1992. Oliver Kahn at number 2 shouldn't be too much of a surprise. When I was about 6 years old, I started watching the Bundesliga. I remember watching Bayern Munich a lot, and one of the reasons why was Oliver Kahn. He was a goalie that, again, had just as much of an attitude as Schmeichel, but his grace as well complemented that, and his ability to just shut out opponents and just be intimidating running up to the ball was just fantastic to watch. He was the number 1 mainstay in Bayern and Germany, again, before Manuel Neuer came on. And he helped Bayern Munich win the Champions League final in 2001 against Valencia and capture their first European Cup for the first time in 25 years at that time. And his 2002 World Cup tournament probably goes down as one of the best all time for a goalie, just because he dragged his team, a German team that normally is pretty good offensively, but that tournament didn't play so well. But he played fantastic until the World Cup final, where, let's be honest, that Brazilian team was absolutely unbelievable. Again, Brazilian Ronaldo, Kaká, Ronaldinho, they were just at the top of their game at the time, and they eventually lost to the champions, Brazil. And number 1 on this list should be no surprise, Iker Casillas, which is where I'm going to leave my story. The first time I do remember watching him was back in 2002. This was a time where the World Cup was in Italy. Was in Japan, South Korea, and I was back on the East Coast, back in the DC area. So games were on at about, I think, 2:33 in the morning. I think from midnight to 5 a.m. was the time slot for most games, just because of the time difference. So I would stay up and watch these games all night, and my parents were like, "Hey, you could do that what you want, but you still have to be up during the day." So I didn't care at the time. I just was like, you know what, I'm going to watch this. It's fantastic. And Spain was always a team that I really liked, just because for me at the time I just liked Spanish teams, just because growing up in that household, that's what you did. So I rooted for all the U.S., I rooted for all the Central American, South American teams, except for Brazil, because I hate them. And then for Spain, those would be the teams that I normally root for, along with some sprinkled European clubs in between. I remember one game in particular when Spain played Northern Ireland at the time in the round of 16. This was the knockout stage, and they went to penalty kicks. I said, you know what, this is going to be pretty intense. And then I saw this goalie for Spain, save 2 penalty kicks, which were huge. I was like, who is this guy? And I looked up his name. His name is Iker Casillas. I'm like, okay. And then I realized he played for Real Madrid. And the guy was 21 years old back in 2002 when this happened. And then 2 years prior to that, in 1999, he started the Champions League final at 19 years old. And they won that game 3 goals to nothing against Valencia. Imagine that, at 19 years old, winning a Champions League, and then getting Spain to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in 2002. And the crazy thing about that is, it would just get better. They won the European Championship in 2008, first time in 44 years that Spain had won it. And then in 2010, of course, he was the captain on the Spanish national team that won the World Cup. And then in 2000, of course, last year, that debacle was just awful. But he was a mainstay at Real Madrid just up until this past week, when news broke that he's transferring from Real Madrid to FC Porto of Portugal. And it's interesting because for me, when I first remember watching that game, I think I was like 10 or 11 at the time. Watching that, I said I got to mimic my game after him, so I did. And a lot of what I learned about being a goalie over the course of my career, whether it be high school and college, was because of Iker Casillas. I think, and again, if I have a kid someday, I'm definitely going to name it Iker. Name him Iker, and it's a boy, no question. Girl, probably not. Probably wouldn't work so well. But definitely, if I'm going to have a boy, it's going to be Iker. This guy's been nothing but a class act for Real Madrid, who's one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest. He played through many eras of Real Madrid. He played through the Galacticos when this roster, get this, was filled with players such as Brazilian Ronaldo, Zinedine Zidane, Luis Figo, Roberto Carlos, Guti, Raul. These are players who are some of the best of all time. Top 100, probably, of all time. And yet, he was the mainstay throughout this entire time. And then once those players left, a new set of players, when Cristiano Ronaldo comes in, Karim Benzema, Sergio Ramos comes in, Pepe, he's still the mainstay. And he's won everything that there is to win. He's won a World Cup, which is hard to do. And to be a captain for that, amazing. He won a Champions League at 19 years old, won 2 more Champions League after that, 5 La Liga titles, 2 Copa del Rey titles, 2 Super Cups, 2 Intercontinental Cups, and the FIFA Club World Cup in 2014. It's amazing the amount of success he's had over his career. And he first first started at the club in 1990 when he was 9 years old. In Spain, they have clubs that you sign on as a kid and you play, however long, and then usually they get rid of you after a certain point. But for Casillas, he's been there essentially since he was 9 years old. For the past 25 years, he's been a mainstay with Real Madrid. And he's the 3rd captain ever in soccer history to win the World Cup trophy, Champions League trophy, and the European Cup trophy. The other 2, Franz Beckenbauer, Didier Deschamps in France, and Beckenbauer played for Germany. So arguably he's going to go into one of the best of all time. Best goalie of all time? For me, there's no question. He's won everything there is to win. On the national stage, on a club's level. And again, you never hear about him in the news. You never heard about him in, I've never heard anything bad about him. And I think that's what I liked about him growing up. Don't get me wrong. Being that bad boy can be great. But for me growing up, I didn't obviously want to be that type of person. So I really just looked up to Casillas as a role model. And again, as I've mentioned previously before, look, athletes should not be role models. And if there should be one, in my opinion, it's got to be Iker Casillas. Just because of the type of player he is on and off the field. He's been nothing but a generous guy. He's had nothing but great things to say about his club. And it was sad when watching the press conference because he cried. Which, honestly, I'm not a crier at all. But I actually had to shed a tear. I did. And it goes to show you the type of things that it makes me cry at this point. Because again, I'm not a crier, but for that to make me cry, that says a lot, at least to me. I wish him the best of success at Porto, and it's just going to be interesting just to reflect on the times when he was at Real Madrid. Again, he's still, and he's the most capped goalie of all time, 162 games for Spain. That's incredible. He probably has a couple more games left before he may have to retire from the national team. I say he could probably hit 170. But honestly, Iker, thank you for what you've done for me and what you've done for hundreds of fans, just not just for Real Madrid and for Spain, but you're just a good person. And for me, that's one thing that I've always liked. And this is a nice quote here from Gianluigi Buffon on Casillas following his transfer. He said, "You've always been a Real Madrid icon. But above all, you've been one of the best representatives of our position on the pitch. Good luck in your new adventure. It'll be strange to see you in another shirt from now on. Go, Iker." And this is from Gianluigi Buffon, a player who he's played against time and time again at not just the club level, but the national level as well. And I'm sure, again, you have nothing bad to say about the guy at all. And on top of that, of course, he has a um, gorgeous girlfriend, it's Sarah Carbonaro. Look her up. She is gorgeous, and they have a kid together naturally. So yeah, I mean that's the end of my show. Again, for me, it was just an opportunity to just thank Iker for what he's done for me, just not just as a goalie over the course of my time playing, but just as a person. I think I just learned a lot from him, and just how to be a respectable person, just to be a role model in that sense. So for that, I say thank you. That's the end of my show. I'm going to be up in Tucson for the weekend following this game, so I'm going to head downtown. It's only a 15-minute walk, so it's not too bad. And then following that, again, Tucson, and I'll be back in Phoenix for the last week. So actually, probably I'll be doing a show in Phoenix. Yep, probably next Friday. So I'm just going to throw on some music here to roll out here. So here is Untouchable by Tritonal. Going to check them out also at the Roseland mid-October, I think. So here is Untouchable, Tritonal, Cash Cash on the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Cerrone on Spreaker Radio.
A million miles apart, going nowhere. Believe that even if we're lost, you know it won't be long till we get there. Ooh, spinning round, no control. Burning down, letting go. We've been wandering in the dark, but no matter where we are, just remember. Slipping through our hands, we're sinking in the sands of forever. Light, surrender to the dark, but we can make a spark here together. Ooh, hanging on by a thread. Ooh, we will climb back again. Time is slipping through our hands. It's hard to understand, but